Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. If you're listening on the day this goes live, happy April Fool's Day. My guest this week, I'm so excited because we've been planning this for a while, is Naa Ardua, and she runs the Etsy shop Paper Flow Design. Naa Ardua, thank you so much for being my guest. I wanted to say a bit more, but I want you to tell us about yourself. But before that, thank you for being my guest and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ujama. I'm so glad to be part of the podcast. So as you said, I'm Naa Ardua from Paper Flow Design. I've had my Etsy shop for a few years now. And I started it out of a love of a hobby of mine, and it's grown from there.
Yeah. Now, what do you sell in your shop?
I sell SVG files, and for some people they might be like, what is that? SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphics. So basically, they're graphic designs. So I'm an illustrator, so I draw pictures digitally, and I save them as SVG files. And SVG just means that they can be scalable. So I can shrink it, I can make it larger, and it doesn't get blurry or lose the quality of it. So I make mostly multicultural, like African American, Black women designs in my shop, and I sell those to crafters, and they use that for other products of their own.
Okay, so are you licensing your designs so that others can use them to print items that they can then sell?
The purchase of the design includes the license. So they are allowed to use the design for a physical product, like a t-shirt or a mug or a card. So the license comes with the purchase of the design.
Okay. Do you limit the number of uses that an individual can use your products for?
I do, and that's also, I list that in my descriptions, and I think I have that in my photos to tell people that there is a limit of usage. I think if I have it at 50, I'll have to check. I don't think I've changed it.
Okay.
So they can make up to I think 50 items per purchase of each design.
All right. Now I ask because I've always been intrigued by that because I've bought digital files before and there are those limitations and I try to stay within. I never use as many as the designer says you can use up to, but is there a way, or do you have a way of measuring or tracking whether or not your
I don't, it's kind of hard to police that. It's kind of like, anything else. Like once it's out there, even big brands, they have a hard time trying to track things down. There's so much, counterfeiting going on. So it's kind of like, you trust in the good faith of that person.
Yes. Okay. Now, is illustrating something that you studied professionally or are you self-taught?
I am mostly self-taught. I've always loved art. I've always loved drawing ever since I was a kid. And it's like anytime someone's looking for me, I've always had like a sketchbook and a pencil in my hand. And I did go to school for fashion design, so I had to do I learned some digital graphics during college for that. But as far as drawing, like illustrations, that was all self-taught.
Wow. Impressive. I'm just always impressed by people who can teach themselves these these types of skills. So when did you first discover Etsy?
I think I first discovered Etsy. It came also at the same time when I was learning how to draw digitally, because I was at a moment in my life where I have two kids. I moved to a new country because I'm from the States. I grew up in the States, but I live in France now. And so I was in a place where I didn't know a lot of people, and I would just kind of like go to work, you come home, take care of my kids, and there wasn't really time for me to do things. So I was talking to my cousin, and she says, "Well, why don't you draw anymore?" And I said, "Oh, well, I don't have time." And I thought, okay, well, you're gonna have to make the time if you really want to explore this passion of yours and get back to it. So I started sitting down every night after I put the kids to bed, and I would watch like tutorials and learn how to draw digitally. So from there, once I started making the drawings, I thought, okay, well, I have to like show some people. I showed my family members, and then I started putting that on Instagram, and people started asking me about it, and people started asking me if they could buy things from me. And I thought, well, how are they going to buy it from me? And that's when I started, I opened up my Etsy shop. I don't remember who told me to put it on Etsy. I think I had gone to Etsy to purchase things in the past for other people and knew that it was a place where you could find handmade goods.
Wow. So on Instagram, how were people finding your artwork or finding you
I
on Instagram? Do you know?
Well, I think I was already following. This was like, when 3 or 4 years ago on Instagram, before all of these different algorithm changes where
Yeah.
people would see the things that you posted in chronological order. So the people who were already following me, like friends and family,
Hmm.
would see the things that I would post. So every time I would draw something, I posted up. And I think there was a friend of my sister's. Yeah, that was actually my first sale. A friend of my sister's who saw what I posted and said, "Oh, can your sister do this thing for me? I'm looking for this thing." I said, "Yeah, sure, okay." So it's just, it's amazing the power of the internet.
I know, really. Now, when you say you draw digitally, do you use special tools for creating your digital drawings?
I use a drawing tablet. It's a graphic tablet.
Okay.
Um, so it just basically looks like, yeah, kind of like a black tablet with a little space on the middle of it and a pen. So it's like a special stylus pen to
Okay.
draw. I plug that into my laptop, and then I also use a software, kind of like, I'm sure people have probably heard of like Adobe Illustrator and
Yes.
Photoshop. So I use Inkscape, which is a vector software program. So anytime I draw anything on the tablet, it shows up on the screen and I can save
Mm,
those files.
nice. So people found you on Instagram and then started to want to buy from you, and then you opened up your Etsy shop. When you opened your Etsy shop, was it primarily just to sell to the people who were who showed interest on Instagram, or at that point did you start to think that you wanted to make this into a business?
In the beginning, I actually opened up, I think I had the shop open because someone asked me for a custom design. And I figured, okay, I can do it easily from Etsy because they make it so easy for you to set up a shop.
Hmm.
And then I also thought afterwards, okay, there's other people who might want to buy things from me. I can maybe start this kind of like as a side hustle
Hmm.
and make a little money on the side. So I did want to. It was like it started off as a hobby and moved into a side hustle, and now it's become a little bit more.
Yeah. Isn't that always the trajectory? Well, eventually for most people, it's like, oh, it's the way it goes. But are you enjoying that it's the path that it's taken?
I am because it's just grown organically. Like I've been through changes in my shop. Like I started doing the custom designs, and then I started doing clip art and planner art. And before I moved into where I am now, selling the SVG files. And every step along the way, I've learned something about, what I can do to improve my shop.
Yeah.
So I do like the way that it's gone, even though sometimes, it's been like you go through the low moments and you're thinking, I don't know, maybe I should just close the whole thing up.
Yes.
But every moment helps.
Yeah. Now, outside of selling on Etsy, do you have a job?
I do have a job. I do work in an office. I work in a patent and trademark office. So between then, I kind of work, I call it like part-time-ish hours. I'm not completely full-time, but it's a little bit more than part-time. So as soon as I'm done with that, I am like 100% concentrated on my Etsy, on my drawings, and on my blog. So it's all consuming.
Yeah. Okay, now I have a question that's kind of an aside, and it's because you live in France, and so and now you work there as well. What was the adjustment like learning? Because I assume you had to learn to speak French in order to get a job and work there, because they don't. I mean, I'm sure. Well, I shouldn't say I'm sure. I assume you don't speak English as the primary language in the workplace. So, how did you have to learn French? And if so, how did you learn it and get assimilated enough to function in French society?
Actually, I do speak English at my job
Oh,
because
okay.
it's an English-speaking company, but there are a lot of French. I have a lot of French coworkers as well, so we speak
Okay.
French and English all day long. But
Okay.
before I was working at this company, I did work somewhere else where it was mostly speaking in French. And before moving to France, I didn't speak French at all, so I
Yeah.
had to learn when I got here. And I learned just through assimilation by interacting with people.
Yeah.
I used to wake up early in the morning and I used to watch cartoons in French because they spoke slower.
Oh,
It was
really?
easier for me to understand. So I was watching all of these cartoons at like 6 in the morning because it was like, oh, okay, I can understand what they're saying because they're talking slower and they're also showing the actions, through the little cartoons.
Yeah.
And so my husband would be like, "What are you doing up at 6 in the morning?" I'm like, "I have to watch my cartoon."
That's
And
funny.
then I just would go out and speak to people. Before I started working, I'd take the bus and I'd talk to the bus driver. I'd ask for directions. Even if I wasn't sure of myself, I
Hmm.
would kind of memorize what I wanted to say
Yeah.
or where I wanted to go and just ask questions. And people, I found they were very receptive as long as I was willing to try.
Mm. Yeah, which is not what we tend to hear. Everyone's, well, I shouldn't say everyone, but sometimes people say, that they're rude to you if you don't speak the language, but I'm
Yeah,
glad to
people,
hear.
people, they do kind of get that stereotype, but I think it's more of like, if you think about like if you go into someone's house, you're going to make an effort to do things the way they do it, and it's kind of like
Yeah.
maybe that's how French people see it. It's like you're coming into my home, into my country where I live, like at least make the effort, even
Yes.
if you don't know it, just
Yeah.
make the effort.
Yeah. That's true. I agree. Everyone appreciates you trying.
Yeah.
Okay, and then one last aside, and we'll go back to this, but it's funny you say you watch cartoons. So I grew up in Nigeria, and we had to learn to speak French, and we learned by watching French cartoons. Exactly what you said, because they spoke much slower and you could see what they were doing. So we would sit in French class and then they would play French cartoons for us. Then they turned them off and then we would have conversations about what they were doing. Like, Johnny picked up a book or something like that. And that was how we learned French. Anyway,
Yeah, seriously, I think it's really helpful. Like it's just that's the way kids learn, and
yeah.
they seem to learn languages pretty easily.
Yes, yes. Okay, so how do you manage your time? So outside of work, what does a typical day look like for you between creating and responding to customer inquiries, etc.?
Oh, responding to customer inquiries. It's funny that you asked me that because I get my customer inquiries when I'm sleeping, of course,
Yeah.
because all of my customers, I'd say like maybe 99% of them come from the States.
Mm.
So the times when I get messages are, 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm sleeping. But I see them and I think I would say most people are understanding, like if they have to wait a while to get a response from me. I haven't really had too many negative
Mm.
interactions where that's concerned. But I do have to consider that when interacting with customers is that there's going to be at least a 6 hour time difference
Yeah.
between us. So I'll do that as soon as I can between the times when I'm not working. So it's usually I'll come home, I'll get the kids ready, get dinner ready, have them do chores. And then from 9:30, I am in front of my laptop and I am working on my Etsy shop, working on my blog, answering customer questions. And sometimes that involves like going through and maybe reworking something or trying to help someone figure out how to download their designs.
Mm.
So I would say from like maybe 9:30 to at least midnight, I am concentrated on doing my Etsy business and my blog.
So, I assume because it says right in your shop where your location is, I assume people take that into account. I would hope people take that into account when they're waiting for responses. You would think, but
You would I think no, I'm joking. Most people do. Like I said, I've had very, very few negative interactions. It's mostly always been positive. I
yeah,
think it's also because I tend to like try to put myself in that person's shoes. Like if I purchase something and I can't figure out how to use it, I'm gonna want to, hear from that person as soon as possible. So I always try to
yeah,
be positive with people, and it usually always works out. But and sometimes I think, if I'll let them know like, oh, I'll be able to do that for you at such and such. It doesn't really come down to like a negative reaction with most
yeah,
people, even if they don't know where I am, because I don't know if everyone actually goes to your homepage, on Etsy. I think people just like look for the product they want and, just either buy it or don't buy it.
mm,
And maybe if they really, really are into you, then maybe they'll go to your homepage,
yeah.
your shop page and read all about you.
That's true. That's a good point. So, Narwa, how would you say for a digital product seller you gauge profitability? Because with digital products, a lot of effort and that you put into your product goes in upfront. You create it once, and it's ready for sale. And I assume there's not much you have to do to it after once the product is created. So how do you gauge when it becomes profitable? Like, I guess I'm asking, how do you put a value on the time you spend creating the design, coming up with the design, creating it, having it all uploaded, to when you've sold enough to say, okay, now it's all profit from here based on all the time and effort put into this design. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It is like there's a that big difference between, a digital shop and physical shop, because
Yeah.
when you're making physical products, you know exactly because you're buying, all of
Mm-hmm.
the materials that go into it, or even like a vintage shop, you're still buying the things
Yes.
and you have to like, put up a markup
Yeah,
in order to
exactly.
be profitable. But with a digital shop, like it's pretty much almost all profit because I don't have supplies that I'm continuously buying to make the products. Like I've invested money in my materials, like my tablet, my pen, the software. If you're paying like a subscription,
Mm-hmm.
so if you're just starting out, then you'll take those kind of tools and materials into consideration when you're pricing yourself and determining how much, when it can be profitable.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say once after you have purchased those things, it's pretty much just your time. So you're calculating the time that you spend on it to see if it's going to be profitable. And basically, for me, it's still kind of difficult to determine that, but it's pretty much profitable as soon as I sell the items. If it's not selling in my shop,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll pull the item because it's just taking up space, and I'm paying for the renewal fees
Yeah.
and other things like that. So if the item that I list is not selling, then I'll go ahead and pull it and put something else up there that is more profitable. And I can go in my Etsy stats and look to see how many views I'm getting versus how many times that item has been purchased or how many times it's been favorited. So the things that have like really low numbers, then those, get taken out and to make way to make room for other things. Not that, it's a digital product, so it's not really taking up physical space. Like it's not taking up space in my house or something, but I am still paying for that listing if I just keep it there and it never sells.
That's a great point because initially I was thinking, well, why would you take it down? It's not it's not taking up space. But you're right, you're paying to renew it each time. How many life cycles will you typically give a product before deciding it's time to take it off?
Well, at this moment, I have over 300 items listed, so it's becoming a little more and more difficult to keep track of things.
Yeah.
But I think if I take more time and look at my stats, it's pretty easy to go in your stats and see like what's been getting like maybe 0 views. And I'd say after a couple of months, I'll either try to replace it because I don't if it's really not getting any views, then I'm not going to do things like put ad money behind it because if no one's looking at it in the first place, ad money's not going to help.
Right. Yeah.
Put it up an Etsy ad or something. So I'll look at things that are getting sales and try to make more like that, more
Okay.
like the popular things.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you. Yeah. I've I wondered about that. Now, when you're creating a product, where does the inspiration for your designs come from?
Um, It comes from, well, since I've been doing this for a few years now, like I said, I look at the popular items in my shop that are selling.
Mm.
And also, I get lots of questions from people through Etsy Etsy Convos messages, people asking, "Oh, can you make this?" Or "I didn't see this in your shop. Can you do it with this style?" And also from people that are in my I have like a VIP club through that I email. So
Ooh.
I'll get lots of emails from people telling me like, "Oh, I really like this design that you made, and I want to make something similar. Do you have it with with long hair or with an afro, or do you have a man version?" So it comes from customers, current customers, and also potential new customers, I'd say.
Mm. Oh, nice. I like that when the market tells you what they want. It just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. I don't do custom anymore. I rarely have time just because it was since I am, juggling my shop and family and my part-time job, I just found that custom orders were taking up a lot more time and they weren't as profitable as maybe non-custom items.
Right.
So I've pulled back on making the custom items, but sometimes people, they'll ask me for something and they don't even know that it's already in my shop. So I can just easily guide them to it and just send them the listing. Just say, "Oh yeah, sure. Are you looking for this? Like here it is,"
Yeah.
and send it to them.
Oh, nice. I did have a question that I thought of because we were talking about digital products. When Etsy started moving to the format of encouraging sellers to offer free shipping. Now, for you, that wasn't an issue because you don't ship. Did you notice a change in your products showing up in searches or traffic to your store when that all happened?
I didn't notice any change because, like you said, I never shipped. I don't have shipping in my product, so for me, that didn't affect me at all.
Okay.
I think like they asked everyone, if I remember correctly, like you could like check off something in your shop saying,
Mm,
"Oh yes, I'm agreed to the free shipping, or I will offer free shipping."
yes.
And I think maybe I checked it off just because I think when Etsy gives you something and they say, "Okay, we want you to answer and participate," just go for it just to see. But honestly, like I didn't see any change or any big
Okay.
changes in that.
Okay. Yeah, I was always curious, or I've always been curious how, if at all, that would affect digital product sellers because shipping isn't part of their sales repertoire. So I was like, well, how does that affect them? But then I guess if someone is searching for digital products, for a digital product, there's probably a different search algorithm than for physical products. And so, or at least now there ought to be because,
Yeah, I
uh,
would hope so.
yeah, yeah. All right. Now, how do you determine what to charge for your products?
Honestly, I could say like, oh, I did like, this calculations and stuff, but that's not true. I kind of like once again looked at what was out there on the market
Yeah.
and kind of positioned myself to be, in the middle of that, like not to be on the low end and not to charge like crazy high prices, but
Mm-hmm.
to position myself where I could actually make a profit off of what I'm selling
Mm-hmm.
and be viable, be something that people can consider, like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that she's selling this for that price, and I can buy that. It's not going to be a problem for me.
Yeah. Now, in your particular niche, is there a lot? Do you see that there's a lot of competition?
I think for everybody's niche is a lot of competition. Like no matter
Okay.
what you sell, like you think like, okay, I'm making like, I don't know, like baby booties for goats. Like no one's gonna be competition. But like once you start getting into it and once you like, really concentrate on it and deep dive into it, and then you start seeing like people out coming out of nowhere, and you're like, what? I didn't know there were 30 other shops doing the same thing as me. And you're like, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, there are. But so yeah, I do think there's a pretty healthy amount of competition even in my niche, which I think is good
Yeah.
because it gives people the options to see what else is out there. And if there was no competition, that probably means that nobody wants what you're selling.
I know. Yeah, there's that fine line of, okay, is nobody selling this because nobody wants it, or is nobody selling this because I'm just a genius and nobody has thought of this before?
Yeah, yeah, it could be.
All right, so let's talk about how you promote your Etsy shop. I know you've mentioned in passing Etsy ads, and you also have a website, but what are all the ways that you get the word out there and drive traffic to your Etsy shop?
I would say probably the best way is through Pinterest actually for me. Pinterest is I've been getting like a lot of good feedback from Pinterest.
Mm.
And um, I don't know. I feel like for me, it's easier to do Pinterest than like Instagram or things like that because once you make a pin, if it's a good pin, like it can live on for like months and months and
Yeah,
keep going, and people can repin it. As to like compared to Instagram, you put something on there, even if it's great and it's like the greatest thing you've ever posted,
yeah,
it'll be gone in like a
yeah.
few hours.
Poof, that's it.
Yeah. So Pinterest for me is great. I love it. And also my blog, I find that it helps because, um, like I said, I have people in my VIP club that will write to me and ask me questions. And I thought, okay, well, instead of just answering some of these questions individually, I mean, which I do,
Mhm.
I can also write a blog post about it and it can help maybe the other people because some people maybe are a little shy and they don't feel comfortable writing an email to ask you a question, but they will, be willing to read a blog post about it. And I have like comments from people saying that, oh, I found this so helpful. Thanks for writing this blog post. Now I finally figured out how to do X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
So between Pinterest and the blog posts, and also now I also have a Facebook group.
Oh,
So for the
nice.
people who are in my VIP club, they can also come in my Facebook group and they ask questions. And the same people who are sending me emails ask me questions. And yeah, I feel like I'm going like off.
No, no, no. You're completely on track because for everything
Okay.
you've said, I have a follow-up question for you.
Okay.
Okay,
But the
so
emails as well is a good way to promote it for so people on my email list is also it's been like a huge great way to promote, not necessarily straight way like directly to my Etsy shop,
mhm,
but people will come like to my blog because I'll send them articles from my blog and then
mhm,
they'll ask questions and then they'll ask me, oh, where can I get this design from? And then I can send them to my Etsy shop.
yeah. Okay, so let's start with Pinterest. Do you have a particular Pinterest strategy, or do you just use the Pinterest button that you can use after you upload a new listing to Etsy, or do you go in and or do you create a separate pin specifically for Pinterest from your products?
I do both.
Okay.
So I use the pin button that's from the Etsy app.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also make separate pins because depending on what the person is interested in, they might be interested in buying the product straight away and just seeing it, in your shop photo, or they might be interested in seeing how they can use it. And that'll be a pin that'll come from my blog showing
Okay.
how you can use digital products to make different crafts. And I find that really works too.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. And now with your blog, and Narua's website is paperflowdesigns.com. I will link to that in the notes for this episode, but if you want to hop over and take a look, it's Paperflow Designs. That's PAPERFLODESIGNS.com. And you can see her blog and everything that's going on over there. So, how often are you posting new blog posts?
I think I've slowed down this month, but I think the last month I was like going all in and doing like 3 or 4 a week. But
Oh,
yeah, that's not all the time though. I think this month I was doing like one a week, so it varies, but I try to get out at least one a week just
okay.
to keep things fresh and to be able to send out new ideas to my email list as well.
So when you make a post on the blog, do you also simultaneously send out a newsletter to your email subscribers, letting them know there's a new post?
I'll usually send it within that same week. So I'll
Okay.
have um, it set out to go out. I think like I forget which day of the week because I have different things going out, but it'll go out once a week. If not that, so if, let's say I make a post this week, then I'll send the post to my email list the following week.
Okay. And is what you email in your newsletter a mix of new products in your shop and new posts on your blog, or is it one or the other, or is it just, whatever?
It's mostly like tips and ideas to show them how to use those products
Okay. Okay.
because I find that that's more helpful to them than
That's true.
just, hey, this is my product.
Yes. You're doing newsletters the right way. Oh my goodness, I'm so impressed. What service do you use for sending your emails?
I use ConvertKit. It's a little pricey, but it has everything that I need all in one. I used to use MailChimp,
Okay.
and I forget why I moved away from MailChimp. I think I follow this blogging teacher who uses ConvertKit, and she had like really good ways to show you how to set it up. And I just thought, oh, I can do other things. I can do not just send newsletters, but I can set up like the pop-ups on my blog. I can set up like upsells to my products,
Mm.
all of that through ConvertKit. So I said, okay, you know what? It'll be worth it. Just go ahead, go all in on this. And I like it. It's some people find it difficult
Yeah.
because there's just so much that they have, but you don't have to use everything they have on there.
Yeah. I I if if anyone follows any blogger, at some point you will hear them say, "Oh, I switched to ConvertKit." I've heard
Yeah,
that so much. And
yeah,
I get so intimidated because I've gone and looked at it and thought, well, if everybody is using it, maybe there's something to it. And you're right. I look at it and I get scared because I'm like, that's like, it's a what they call it, V8 engine, where it has more
yeah,
engines on it than I need. I just need a mule to get me from A to
yeah,
B. But
yeah. It's got a lot, but luckily I was able to find someone that really had like good step-by-step videos. Because for me, well, I love video, and this
yeah,
person was able to show me each single step. Like I felt like I was watching those cartoons again. Like
I
someone
know.
talking slow, showing
Yes.
me. That's what I needed.
Oh, I think that's what I would need, cuz yes, I know you can do a lot more, and I always do want to try more, but with the service I use, there's only so much I can do, but I feel like I could benefit from ConvertKit, but I need somebody to hold my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will not venture into it on my own. Um, I know I had another question and now it's escaping me. Oh, I remember now. What platform do you use for your blog, your website?
I use WordPress. I started out with another program. I started out using Weebly because I was afraid of WordPress. I thought like, oh, everyone's like you said, if you follow bloggers long enough, they'll all tell you, oh, you got to use WordPress.
Yes.
And I just thought, WordPress, but I have to do it all myself, and I'm just not that savvy.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'll just go with Weebly. It's kind of, one click and everything's done for you. But then I realized it was limiting me.
Yeah.
And then I made the jump to WordPress, I think like a year later. And
I
it's been so much better.
has it.
It
I
has because I can do so much more.
yeah.
Where like before, when I was on Weebly, I had to keep looking for like a workaround to
Mm,
do certain things, or if I wanted to just like maybe change like the positioning or a column on something, then I realized, oh, I can't do that. And you can't put plugins. Like what's so great about WordPress is that you can add, plugins to do pretty much anything that you want
mhm.
with your website. And when you go with like another standalone platform, I don't know, maybe there are other ones that give you more options, but I know that when I was with Weebly, it was limiting for me. It was easy because I didn't have to like figure things out myself.
Yeah.
But at one point, I realized, okay, I have to kind of like give up the easy and go to WordPress. And I was able to get it up and I didn't die, so it was fine.
I feel like you're indirectly preaching to me with my
Oh,
issues
no.
with ConvertKit. Like, oh no, what I have now is
It took
just
like a
easy.
year to get off of Weebly, so don't worry.
Nice. So, what was the? Because I use WordPress as well, and I know there's a learning curve. Um, did you did you go to YouTube University to get up to speed on WordPress, or did you find a course that you liked that helped you?
It's the same blogger that I found her course that I learned how to set up ConvertKit with.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a great course that shows you basically like step by step how to set up everything on WordPress.
Okay.
And like she really takes her time to show you things because like you were saying, like needing someone to hold your hand, that's how I was just like, WordPress, like I'm not a
I know.
coder.
Yes.
So yeah, it was through another blogging course that I was able to set it up and get everything correctly done.
Are you comfortable sharing who that was, or?
Oh yeah, sure. Her name is it's Susie Whitford. She's from Start a Mom blog.
Oh
So
yes, I know her. I
yeah.
mean, I don't know her. I know I've seen her stuff around. Yes.
Oh yeah, it's like she's just great. And she's like because she used to be an engineer, and I think she's got that engineer brain, so like
Oh
she can like take things apart and put them back together and show you how one
yes.
thing fits together. So that's why I love following her and listening to everything that she puts out.
Oh yes. Actually, I know now. I know how I know her because I was making a kids coloring page, and she has a tutorial about how to create a coloring page from
Yeah,
a picture that you have on your phone, which just blew my mind. Something like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you're right. She goes step by step. Like at the end,
yeah.
you're amazed that you can do it too, because she's good at explaining.
Oh yeah, she's excellent at explaining things. I'm like, oh, she's got that engineer brain.
Okay, so social media, and I know you mentioned Pinterest, and yes, we bounce back and forth between Pinterest is social media. Oh no, it's a search engine. But let's talk about pure social media. You're on Instagram and you have a Facebook group. Are those primarily where you focus your social media? Um, oh, what's the word I'm looking for?
My social
Efforts.
media like efforts.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to be honest, like my Instagram, I have like not done anything with Instagram in a while. Just because it felt like I was just posting things into a black hole after a
Yeah.
while. Um, people with all the algorithm changes and like
Yes.
people would just not see your things as much, and that's why I ended up going to Pinterest. So I know it's really great for other people, but for me, it just felt like I was on a hamster wheel of like, you got to produce like, all this content and post it like every day, like, three times a day. And I just was thinking, I can't do that. And I know they have schedulers and things, but it just felt like, okay, if I had to choose where I'm going to focus my time, Instagram for me was not really a good return on my time. So,
Yeah.
but Facebook, I do spend time there. I have started a group.
Group.
I actually had closed the group at one moment because I felt like I was trying to do all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And I reopened it because I felt like I needed a place to have not just talk to people like in my VIP email group, but also have people interact with each other and me at the same time because sometimes I would come home from work and I see like all these emails in my inbox and I'm like, how am I gonna have time to answer them all one by one?
I
And
know the
sometimes it's the same
feeling.
question.
Yes.
So I just thought, oh, it's better if I can answer this question in my Facebook group and then other people can see the answer too because they probably have those same questions too.
Yeah.
So the Facebook group is great for that. And also on my Facebook page, I like to go live
Mm.
to teach some of the things that I talk about on my blog. And I've been getting a good response with that as well.
Oh, good. One tip I will offer you, just if you care, because Facebook and Instagram are together, you can actually push your live video after it's done to Instagram.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you don't have to even do it twice. Just
Ooh,
push it
okay.
over there, and then
Taking notes.
and
Okay.
I think video does get a bit more traction than static posts nowadays on
So will it
Instagram.
go? Does it go on your Instagram feed or on your stories? 'Cause
So
I hear
yeah,
people
so
like,
when you
"Oh, do
push,
stories." I'm like,
yeah,
really? Every day?
no, it's not stories. Yeah,
Okay.
when you push it over, um, and you're posting it, it will ask you if it should put a snippet in your feed, which is like will be about I think 10 or 15 seconds of the video, and then it will put the video in its entirety onto IGTV. And so then when it shows up in your feed, um, all someone has to do to continue watching, it will have a link there that says continue watching on IGTV, and then it just automatically takes them to the full length
Oh,
video.
my goodness, Jama, you're blowing my mind. Okay,
Ah!
I'm going to look into this. I'm going to look into this. Yeah, I love a shortcut. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so you can get two for the price of one.
Yeah.
Oh, but there is a caveat with IGTV. I don't know how long your lives go, but depending on
Mm,
how many followers you have, right now,
mm.
I think the maximum length for the IGTV videos is 10 or 15 minutes, something like that.
Okay, yeah, my lives are usually about that time, about 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, then you're good. Yeah.
Okay,
And
great. Oh,
vice versa. So if you were to do the video on IGTV, you can push it
yeah.
to Facebook.
To Facebook
Hmm.
and to a Facebook group as well.
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay, this is great. This is great. Maybe I'll get back into the world of Instagram after all.
Yeah, I think Instagram wants more video content,
Oh,
because the
I love
static
video content.
thing, huh?
I'm all about the video content, so
Oh,
that's
exactly. So yeah, it's calling your name. Okay, so would you say that running a business on Etsy has had an impact on your on how do I want to phrase this? Did Etsy have the impact on your business or other goals that you had that you expected?
yes, it did, but also things that I probably didn't expect. Like
Mm,
I didn't expect to kind of, I would say, meet people through Etsy.
mm,
So because I've opened up an Etsy shop, it's like opened up this other world to me of like meeting other entrepreneurs online, things that I probably never would have been able to do without having have started at my Etsy shop.
Yes.
Of course, there's also the financial bonus.
Yeah.
So being able to make that extra money has allowed us to do things like, go on vacations that maybe we wouldn't have been able to take before. So that is definitely a good plus.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
it's just learning so much about the possibilities of what you can do online. Thanks to my starting out with my Etsy shop, has grown into me seeing that okay, I can also have a blog that reaches people. I can also have courses that reach people. I can talk to people that are also interested in the same thing that I'm into. I can get feedback from them. I can help them. They can help me. It's amazing the things that I've been able to see and do, all because I decided, okay, I'll start an Etsy shop.
Yes. I like that. Now, you mentioned briefly wanting to close or quit the shop in times of frustration.
Yeah,
How do
I
you Yes.
go ahead.
No, go on. I think you know where I'm going.
Um, how? No, no, no. I mean, I'll let you finish the question because
Okay,
maybe it's not going
so
to be the
so
same.
I was going to say, how do you get past those moments? Because I think we've all faced them, and just had those times where we've just thought, I'm just going to throw in the towel. It's not worth it. And like for me, sometimes I have just put the shop on vacation mode and said, I'm done. I mean, vacation mode is like a fake I'm done because it's just vacation. I always know I'm coming back,
Yeah.
but how do you handle those times?
I think I heard this quote somewhere, and I really should have written it down and like so I could able to give credit to who said it. But someone said the time is going to pass anyway. So if I quit, then and if I say, oh, it's going to take too long, I'm not getting the results that I want right now, or maybe I had a bad day and I didn't get the number of sales I want, I'll just shut down the whole thing and just quit. But the thing is, if I do that, then the time is still going to pass. And if I don't quit, if I keep going and I say, okay, I had one bad day, and that doesn't mean all the other days are bad. Think about the times that you had good days, or you had good sales, or something else came out of it. The time is still passing anyway. So if I can look back and say, okay, 10 years ago, or 3 years ago when I opened up my Etsy shop, I'm glad that I opened it up despite having the ups and downs, and despite changing my product lines, and kind of like changing the way that I wanted to go with the shop. So those 3 years had passed. So if I had closed it, those 3 years would still pass. So I keep saying to myself, you know what? The time is going to pass anyway.
Yeah.
Whether you put in the work or you don't put in the work, the time is still going to pass. And that just helps me get through those moments.
That's so profound, actually. The time will pass anyway, so
Yeah.
just do it. I like that. Um, when you get a new idea for a design, typically, what's the life? How long is the life cycle from idea to execution to having it up and ready for sale?
Well, before I had my blog, I was just dedicated all my time to Etsy.
Mm.
So during that time, I would, say I come home and start working on my designs, and I could have maybe like two or three per night that I would list. So I'd make sure that at least every day I'd have at least one thing to list.
Mm.
That was before I had really started dividing up my time between Etsy and my blog. But now I don't have as many new listings. So before it was, like I said, was at least one a day,
Mm.
which was it was time consuming because you have to even though it's a digital product, so it's not like a physical product that I have to go and like take some yarn and knit like a whole scarf.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to draw it, and that still takes time. And as everyone else knows, like no matter what your product, you still have to put that listing up on Etsy, which is like I have to put the pictures there. I have to like make, write my description and fill out every single category and all that stuff. And all that takes time. So when I was dedicating the time to do one a day, it was a big chunk of time that I was dedicating to it. Now I don't, of course, I don't do one a day anymore. I think I have weeks where I haven't put up new listings, but because people are buying my items, it renews those listings for me.
Wait, because people buy your item? Oh, wait. I don't
Yeah, so
understand.
you know, like if you put up the listing and well, since it's a digital, see, because I've never sold a physical product, I don't know the way that works, but I'm assuming like when you have a physical product, when someone buys that listing is sold out. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you have just one of it, yes. If you have multiples,
Okay,
you put in Etsy the quantity that you have, and then let's say
okay,
you
so it's the
have
same.
three and they buy one, then Etsy
Yeah.
renews it for a second one and says now you have two available.
Yeah, okay, so then it is the same. It's the same for digital products. You can say
Okay.
the quantity. So I'll put the quantity at like, 100 or something like that. And so when people
Oh,
buy
I
it,
see. Okay.
yeah, it just renews, it
Okay,
renews
that makes
that
sense.
listing.
That makes sense. So with each sale, yes, it's a fresh listing.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Wow, that saves you like double time now that I think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. That's why I love digital products.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
you put
man.
in the work on the front end
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to like reap the benefits on the back end because you make it once and you get to sell it over and over again.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is I had another question coming up, but I will go to that question after because I think this is a great place to start talking about this and we'll talk about it again at the end of our conversation. But um somebody is listening now that is thinking, I really want to learn how to make digital products or I want to, take a stab at it. You have a course that teaches people exactly how to do this. Can we talk about your course?
Sure. So, as I had been making the digital files for a while, I started having people asking me, how to make them. And I thought, okay, well, the easiest way to answer that is to make a course to show people.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a course called So Simple SVG Files. And basically, it's a video course that shows you step by step how to get the software, how to start making simple designs just using basic shapes. So you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to, be a professional graphic artist. You can be a beginner, and I'll take you through the steps and show you exactly how to take that drawing and turn it into an SVG file and get it from your mind to your computer. And right now, I am running a special for the Etsy Conversations podcast listeners. If you want to learn how to draw SVG files, you can use the code Etsy Combo, which is in all caps, and you'll be able to save 20% off of that course.
Thank you so much for doing that, Naa Ardua. I'm curious about this too because I look at your designs and I think they're beautiful, but I can't even conceive of coming up with the idea to begin with. So, um, yeah, it's intriguing to me.
Oh yeah, I get people tell me they'll write to me and say, "Oh, I want to start making my own designs because sometimes they'll buy designs but it might be missing something to
Yes.
personalize it,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and they'll think, oh, I wish I knew how to do this myself, and I'm like, well, you take my course and you can learn how to make your own.
Yeah. And for what you teach, do they all have to be illustrations or can they be like word quotes? Can you make
I
SVG
also
files?
that's a I have a module in my course that shows you how to make quote SVG files, so you can take text
Mm.
and using different fonts, make your own SVG files with just words. So if you like, those cute little funny quotes and you want to
Mm-hmm.
make like a t-shirt out of that, I'll show you how to make a quote file using an SVG.
Wonderful. Okay, I will have a link to your course in the notes for this episode as well for anyone who wants to check it out. Also, okay, so we'll talk about that again at the end, but I did want to talk about getting into creative ruts. So now that your time is split between the blog and your Etsy shop and you're not creating as much as often as you used to, do you find that sometimes you just run dry creatively and if so, how do you reboot and start getting fresh ideas flowing again?
I don't really find myself getting into creative rut just because I think I'm so um communicative. I don't even know if that's a word,
It is.
but I communicate a lot with my like I said, my VIP members, and they send me a lot of great ideas. So that's how I avoid getting into that creative rut is because I have this like constant flow of ideas coming from, the same very people who want my products.
Yeah. Okay. That does help actually.
Yeah. Otherwise, I will say sometimes I also go into like Facebook groups and I'll see what people are talking about. I look because basically you need to look at what the market wants. So if you're a member of a Facebook group and people are saying, "Oh, I wish I could find a file that looks like, dot dot dot," and then that should be like a signal going off in your head, like, "Hey, I should make a file that's like dot dot dot." People
Yes.
are looking for it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Good ideas. Now, one thing, one of the new changes on Etsy is that now they will tell you if there are products in your shop that people have in their shopping carts. And then they offer you a way to help push that sale by sending the person, the people who have your products in their cart a coupon for a discount. Do you take advantage of these new tools that Etsy is offering?
Oh, I take advantage of like almost all the tools that Etsy
Oh,
offers.
okay.
Yeah, I've been using that one for a while. I don't really see that much benefit from that one.
That was my next question. Yeah.
Yeah, I do use it and I see, because you can go in your stats and see if people are using coupons and what coupons they're using,
Yes.
the way you name them. So I don't really see that one coming back too often. I think
Okay.
I just have like a lot of return buyers because they like my digital files and they'll come back and
Hmm.
buy other ones. But it's not necessarily people using the coupons for
Okay.
those incentive coupons.
Okay. Do you give coupons to buyers for, future sales?
I have in the past, but like I said, I don't really see people, even
Mm.
when I would give the coupons, like people would come out and they would buy things and they wouldn't use the coupon.
I've
You know
done
how
that
like
before. I forget that I have a coupon. I just go back and buy it
I
because I like it.
I think they just forget, and because you can see if that person's a return buyer in your shop,
Yes.
just because
Uh-huh.
that gold star in there,
Yeah.
and then it's like I know that you got a coupon, but I guess you just didn't want to use it.
Yes, I don't know why, but I often forget to use coupons, but if it's something I like, I'll just buy it anyway. And then with the as far as being a consumer, when I've done that thing where I put something in my shopping cart, but then I don't buy it. I just put it to remind myself to go back and, decide whether or not I want it. And then I'll get an email saying, oh, this is still in your shopping cart and, go ahead and make that purchase. And this is just me. My
No, I've
reaction
gotten
to it
them.
is, um, don't pressure me. It's like, I'm still thinking, that's how I, in my head, react
Yeah.
to it. And I wonder if other people feel the same way. And that might be why, you know,
I guess maybe it depends on who, like, where you get it from. Like, I don't know about you, but with Amazon, I get those every single day
yes,
from
yes.
like, you saw this, or like,
Uh-huh.
this and that. And I kind of like, I'm like blind to it because they send so many all the time.
Yeah.
But other things like, I think I saw like this brush on Facebook, and my daughter wanted like certain hairbrush, and it popped up, and I think what really sold me was that they showed people like regular people using it, and I think I clicked on it, but I didn't buy it right away because something happens. Maybe my son called me or something, and I just closed my screen, and I got one of those emails from the company, and I bought the brush.
Oh, nice.
So maybe it depends on like, who's sending it. If it's
Yeah.
something that you really wanted and then you just forgot about it.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I mean, I think it is good for a reminder if it's something you or say I was going to buy anyway. But sometimes if I'm just looking, I'm like, oh, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Nadwa, what are some of the things you would say that you did or have done or are doing that have helped you find success on Etsy?
Um, I would say taking my shop seriously
Mm-hmm.
and not just treating it like some hobby of mine.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, it was, it came about because of my love for drawing. But then when I saw that I was able to reach people and people liked what I wanted, what I was doing, I decided to take it seriously and set aside time each night. So even if I wasn't in the mood or even if I didn't feel like it, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to sit down. I'm going to put a timer on and I'm going to draw for, 30 minutes or 1 hour, and that helped me to kind of take myself more seriously. And I think because I was continuously listing things in my shop, it was getting more exposure and people could kind of see that, oh, maybe this person is serious, because when I go to her shop, she doesn't just have like three things in there, and or
Mm-hmm.
like five things that have nothing to do with each other. It looks consistent and it looks like a real business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
So it was definitely, I would say, like setting that time to take it seriously and put out those listings even when I didn't feel like it.
Yes. And that I think just makes all the difference in the world. Is the key you said was even when you didn't feel like it, because there'll be so many of those times where you just don't feel like it, but that consistency and taking it seriously has obviously paid off for you. Is there
Yeah.
something, um, a lesson you've learned from selling on Etsy the hard way that you can save someone else the trouble?
Oh, yes. In the beginning, I was posting and putting up listings of just things that I liked. Things like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I made this drawing, and because I think it's cute, I'll put it in there and people will like it. And I think after going through months of doing that, and I think I got like a shop audit somewhere and listened to a few people that said, like, it's not about what you like, it's about what your customer wants. And it took me a while before that actually got into my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that it's not about you. It's about, the person that you want to reach. It's the customer. What do they want?
Yeah.
And it's not because you like to make it in green that they want it in green. So
Yes. And that just circles back to what you said about, you know, learning from what people were asking you for, what they actually wanted, and
yes.
and putting yourself in places where you can discover what people really want.
Yeah, definitely. In the beginning, I was just, I guess I had my blinders on and I was just making drawings of whatever I, fancied at the moment. And in the beginning, it wasn't even sinking in that it wasn't what people wanted. I just was like, oh, well, this is just so fabulous and it's so cute. Why doesn't anybody want to buy it? Like, because that's not what they want.
Yeah. Yep, I made that mistake many, many times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all do in the beginning.
What's one thing about selling on Etsy that you really like? And then what features would you like to see implemented on the platform?
I like the convo message
Mm-hmm.
option because it's quick, it's an easy way for people to get in contact with you,
Mm-hmm.
especially for me being like in a completely different time zone than people. They don't have to like, I don't know, run around somewhere else to try to find me or to, get a response from me. Sometimes people will just have like a quick question and I'm able to like just see it straight there
Mm-hmm.
in the combos.
Mm-hmm.
And what's one thing that I would like for them to do? I would like for them to have more video options. Like, would like to be able to answer people back by video, maybe in the convo. That would just be so great.
Oh
Um,
wow.
oh my gosh, I would love that. I would seriously love that. Because you know what I do? When people write to me they send me an email message,
Mm-hmm.
I will respond to them by video because it takes less time for me.
Yeah.
I can just put my phone, I can just record the video and then just send them a link explaining, whatever it is that they asked me. or just like, to yeah, answer their questions, say hi or whatever. It's just so much easier for me by video. And sometimes people will ask you a technical question because I sell digital files.
Mhm.
They'll say like, "Oh, I don't know how to open this thing," or this part of it is giving me problems. Like, can you help me? And if if you don't see what it is that they're having problems with, it's kind of hard to help them,
Mhm.
you know? So Etsy does have like the part where you can add pictures to it, but if they had video, oh my gosh, that would be so great.
Have you ever tried to upload a video? Because I know you can upload pictures, but
You can't, I don't think you can. I think I've tried to
okay.
upload and I think like when I go to upload it, because you can only, well, let's see, I think I've only done it with the app on my phone.
Mm.
Um, and I was only able to choose the photos in my gallery.
Oh.
I wasn't able to choose any of the videos.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I even recorded Ijama. Once someone asked me, like, they said, "Oh, I don't know how to download these things," because I do get a lot of like older customers sometimes that aren't really tech savvy,
Mhm.
but they like the designs and they want to buy them and use them anyway, which is great.
Mhm.
So I try to do like a screen recording on my phone to show them just how to open and download the file because that's like 99% of the questions.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I recorded it to show them, like, step by step, this is how you go into it, this is how you download it. And I just wanted to like link that video that I did to my Etsy combo, but
Mhm.
it didn't work. I was so disappointed. I'm like, oh my God. I'm gonna have to like do screenshots and send it to them one at a time.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now I can see how that could be annoying. So,
Yeah.
you're not using any special app. You're just using the screen record function on your phone when
Yeah.
you Oh, okay. I What about so the video so when you send a video it's oh, you're just blowing my mind with your video thing right now. I'm like it's like I run from video and you run to video.
I run to video, yes.
Nice. Okay, so when you do the videos of yourself,
hmm I
d-
just recorded with my phone, but I
oh,
use Google Photos to send the link.
oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. And then you don't save those, right? Because those just take up space. So you
Well, I
record,
think
you
my
send,
Google
and you
Photo,
delete.
I think it's just automatically saved, and I just go in once in a while and I'll delete them. Like,
Okay.
it's probably because of my settings. If I could probably just delete them automatically, but I
Mm,
just have to go in there and delete them. But
okay.
I use that, and I use a couple of other things. Like if I'm at my computer,
Hmm.
I'll use Loom,
Oh yeah, I've
Loom.
heard of it. Uh huh.
Yeah, that one I really like because you can send that link and the person will not just get only the link, but it'll come with like a little GIF or a GIF. I never know how to pronounce those things, but those
I
little
don't
moving
know
things.
either. I try not to say it out loud.
Yeah, but it'll attach that in the email that you send to the person, so they can actually see that that link is a real video. So Loom is a great, it's a
Oh,
free service as well.
okay. Oh, cool. I will link to that too, so folks can check it out. Do you have any advice for a seller who has been on Etsy for a while now and is still kind of struggling with just trying to find their feet on the platform?
I would say my advice is probably the same advice as I would give a beginner on Etsy, which would be to research what is working for other people by looking at other shops and not to copy what they're doing or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
just to get a feel of what people actually want.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just stay like in your own little world, you kind of get lost and you don't see like the reality of what people actually want.
Yeah.
So research and if it's going into Facebook groups like I said or staying on Etsy and seeing other Etsy shops or even going like on Amazon, just go to where people are buying the things that are similar to what you make
Mm-hmm.
and seeing what people want. And so yeah, so to research And not to be afraid to talk to other people, like to go on Facebook groups and ask questions. Like I'm a member of a few Facebook groups, and I don't always ask questions, but it's good for me to see the questions that other people ask because maybe a lot of the times I have those same questions.
Yeah.
But in that same vein, not to get too caught up with what's going on and like the drama and like the
Yes.
negativity. So
Mm.
I'll dip in there and I'll see what's helpful, and whatever's not helpful, I leave.
Yeah.
So that's my advice is, do the research, um, be an active member, of a community where it's helpful for what you're making, but don't let yourself get caught up in any negative things.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great advice. And speaking about what's really working well, and I think you've already kind of touched on this um, earlier. Well, throughout the course of our conversation, is I was going to say, what do you think right now is, I wouldn't say working well for you. What's working the best for you? Like, what are you most enjoying about selling on Etsy and running a business on Etsy?
It's something that surprised me because when I started, I thought, okay, I'll just start this little business and I don't have to talk to anybody, and that's the way that I want it.
Oh, really? That's what you thought?
That's what I thought. But because I thought, oh, people are gonna like ask me things that I don't know, and I'm gonna look silly, and I just don't know, I don't want to get into that and put myself in the position to be vulnerable. But actually, that's the part that I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying getting the contact with customers, the contact with people in my group, because sometimes they'll ask me things, and even if I don't know, I'll go and do the research to find the answer, and it's also a learning opportunity for me,
Yeah.
and it's a way for us to connect with each other.
Yeah.
So that was surprising for me. I thought like, oh, I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to stay, in my house, like on the computer behind the screen and be by myself. But I actually enjoy that. Like when I do the lives and people are on there asking questions. At first I thought, oh my God, they're gonna ask me a question. I'm not gonna have the
I
answer.
know.
But people are actually nice. Like when you talk
Yes.
to them, they're happy that you're there and giving them, attention and listening to their question. And even if you don't have the answer right away, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like people are really forgiving about that. They just really want the connections and to make contact with other people that enjoy what they enjoy.
Yeah. I have to say, hands down, I love the Etsy community. I don't hang out in the forums very much, but the community that has formed just around the podcast of people who, who are selling on Etsy or want to sell on Etsy or what have you. Um, I just like those people because they're just nice. And
Yeah.
I enjoy communicating with them and what just like what you said. I also didn't expect to be having conversations with real people. I mean, except for on the podcast. I know that sounds
Yeah.
weird, but outside of the podcast, I didn't expect it, and I just so appreciate the community, of of Etsy sellers that has formed, because you're right, everyone is just like and have the same questions, fully don't expect you to know everything and whatnot, and it's been nice. And yes, like you, I was always like afraid to talk to people because I just thought
Mhm.
I won't know the answer. I'm not the person to ask. I ask
Yeah.
questions, I don't answer questions.
Yeah.
Are there any tools or resources that you use to help you run your business, or just get better at being a business owner in general, that you um, find very helpful that you can share?
As far as tools go, I am like a huge fan of anything that Google puts out. Like seriously, I just find it so intuitive, so easy to use, and I use Google Drive for just about
Oh,
everything. Like,
yes.
oh yeah, I'll write my blog post in Google Drive. Like I said, I use Google Photos to send people the videos.
Yes.
I'm able to use. There's another app that I use to make my pins, but then I can load them up to Google Photos to save them. Yeah, I love pretty much like any Google product. There's Google Keep. I don't know if you're like a Google user, but Google Keep is like a notes app that I save like anything that I can, I can't remember, or if I need like to put down a grocery list or
No, I've
yeah.
never heard of Google Keep. So is it like a
Oh,
competitor to Evernote?
I've never used Evernote, but I think it might be like it's a separate app that you can have on your phone, and you can write notes on there. You can save pictures, you can save videos, you can like hand write a note that you want to save. You can put reminders on there, so like you'll get a pop-up reminder at a certain time. And seriously, like I love it. I swear by it. I use it every day.
Is it an app that only works on Android phones?
Um, I don't think so because I used to have an iPhone and I want to say that it worked on there, but I can't really remember.
Okay.
I've been using it for so long,
Okay.
and yeah,
Oh,
I use it
that's
for.
new for me. I've never heard of Google Keep.
Oh, I love it. I love it, love it, love it, love it. So that's like one of the main resources that I use is like pretty much any Google app.
Okay.
Um, and as far as like things that motivate me are podcasts. Like I listen to podcasts every single day. Like when I'm drawing, when I'm writing my blog posts,
Yeah.
I'm listening to podcasts. Um, of course, I listen to Etsy Conversations podcast. I've been listening, like seriously, Ajama, when I first started my Etsy shop, I was saying I'm gonna be on Etsy Conversations podcast one day. Like,
Oh.
hey, I'm gonna make it. But it was just so helpful to listen to other people that are, in maybe in your same position, maybe ahead of you, maybe like a few steps behind you, but just like listen to real people and listen to how they solve their problems or what helps them in their shop is so, so helpful. Because
Yes.
as makers, we're just sitting, at home, like if this is like a side thing that you're doing, like, outside of your work time or your family time, you're just sitting there probably by yourself most of the time. So it helps so much to hear other people talk about this passion that they have for what they make and being able to put it out there for people.
Yes. Thank you. That's exactly the goal of the podcast. So I'm glad that that you found it and have found it to be helpful in that way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you have an Etsy shop shout out?
I do. I actually I asked because I asked the members of my Facebook group because there's like some really creative people in there. I was like, oh, I don't want to just give out like somebody random. So I have two members of my Facebook group actually.
Oh, nice.
One of them, her shop is called Queen Bee Hair and Body Care, and she makes like a line of body creams and hair lotions. Her name is Stefania Perkins.
Oh, cool.
And the other one is Connie's Crafty Designs by Connie Jackson, and she makes wreaths. So like the wreaths that you'll put on your door, like with
Oh,
flowers,
yes.
they
Uh-huh.
are absolutely gorgeous. I think like she just started not so long ago, but she was talking to me. Like I said, like people send me emails. Like she sent me an email, and we were talking, and she was telling me a little bit about her backstory. And I looked at her shop, and seriously, like the things that they make, I'm just like, wow, I am so much in admiration because like for me it's like, it's digital, like I don't see myself like making physical things,
Yeah.
but
And that's how I feel all the time when I look at what, people do on Etsy. I'm like, whoa, why am I even on here? These are real. I mean,
yeah.
you included. I'm always comparing myself and feeling, you know, completely inadequate.
Yeah. I
But
know what you mean.
thank you for these. So I will link to Queen Bee Hair and Body Care. That's Stefania's shop. And Connie's Crafty Designs. That's Connie's shop as well. So folks can go and check them out and see what good stuff they're doing on Etsy. Now, Nardwa, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
The best way for me is probably through either email. So you could find me at Naad, which is my nickname. It's NAAD at paperflowdesign.com. That's designs with an S.
Okay.
Or through Facebook, my Facebook group as well. So you just look up Paperflow Design on Facebook and create and design with Paperflow. You can find me on there.
Sorry, what's the
Um,
name of your Facebook group again?
it's create and design with Paperflow.
Create and design with Paperflow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I will make sure I will put links to these so folks can connect with you. And again, Naa Ardua's shop is Paperflow Designs. That's PaperFlowDesign. And her website where you can check out her blog is paperflowdesigns with an S.com. And all the links will be in the notes for this episode. Naa Ardua, we did it.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much for being my guest and just for sharing all this. Well, first your journey and then what you're doing now and the helpful tips. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Jama. Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week. If you'd like to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at Convo Me Podcast, and you can feel free to connect with me there. I am doing a series of Q&As where you can ask questions and I will answer. You can DM me your questions right there on Instagram.